big problem. Actually pulled up some data that we'll be talking about later on in the show. William, do you have the message Dr. Brown wanted to read as far as the REACH program? Again, no problem. No problem. So again, I'm a little bit under the weather as far as just all the dynamics taking place, not only on a local but on a national level as well. You know, when you got idiots like Ben Carson making statements about Muslims, and he's African American, it really is disheartening what this world is actually coming to. For the first time in my life, we have an African American president. We never would have thought that would have happened 20, 30, 40 years ago, but it happened today. So we shouldn't limit any race of people from being anything they want to accomplish in life. And I just wanted to just put that out there that, you know, for him as African American, knowing what we have went through as a people, to get out in the forefront and to be able to say that a Muslim should not be president of the United States because he's Muslim is, to me, idiotic and comes without thought. And that's strange coming from an individual who's a scholar, if you will, one of the best brain surgeons in the country, and now he's talking about a Muslim should not be president. Well, Barack Obama has been labeled a Muslim, so should he have not been a president? I mean, look at all the things that he has accomplished in the 8 years.
Sounds like he's doing the Donald Trump thing.
Oh my God! And he's I won't even talk about this guy because I want to give him the time of day. But it's just so sad that, you know, that we have an individual of our race who gets on and denounce and really perpetuates racism. I think that's what he did by singling out a race of people.
Well, we're going backwards in that, you know, with all the stuff that's been going on recently.
Yeah.
Racism is, to me, went from being, we're bringing it back to the forefront again.
I don't, you know, and I'm not gonna get off subject, but I don't really think it went anywhere. And when you look back, 1968 is not that long ago. And it just went undercover. So you couldn't have, you know, KKK, you couldn't have these type of groups just being out there because you couldn't do government contracts, you could do a lot of things. Right. So it just went undercover. So now they're doctors, now they're lawyers, now they're police officers, now they're judges, you know, undercover. So I don't think it's really went anywhere. How far can it go if you're talking about 450 years? And when you put it in reality, 1968, what, 50 years ago, 60 years ago? I mean, that mindset can't be gone after having 450 years.
Well, it's just, you know, like last night, Viola Davis, when she won her award for being, you know, first African-American to win the Emmy. But let's just, my opinion, just leave race out of it completely. Right. You won the award.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter. You're an actress.
Right.
You won the award.
You know,
that's not your platform.
I would agree with you.
But then I say kudos, but it's still, you're an actress, you won an award.
I would agree with you for 150%. But until America sees me as a man, you cannot take race out the mix.
Yeah.
Because I want you to see me as not as a black man, but as simple as a man. I don't think she wants to be seen as a black actress.
Right.
She wants to be seen as an actress. But the fact of the matter is, until this country becomes colorblind and look at men as men and women as women, then you'll always have that race in the mix. And I don't think we've reached that point. But again, I'm so tired of feeling afraid for my children's future and waking up at night wondering whether human life will be the end of America, or watch for children everywhere in our violence-saturated world. So I hope you will stand with me and others to stop those who prey on children, pick on children, put children in harm's way. Black children are disproportionately poor. An unlevel playing field from birth contributes to many poor black children getting pulled into the cradle to prison, to the death pipeline that we must dismantle if the clock of racial and social progress is to not turn backwards. Imprisonment is the new slavery for the black community on average. States spend over 3 times as much per prisoner as per public school pupil. What does that say what we value? The eyes of the future are looking back at us, and they are praying for us to see beyond our own time. It's imperative for us to be able to get off the sideline and get in this battle. And the battle is a war for our legacy, which is our kids, our future. Couple announcements, and then I really want to introduce my guest and talk about something that is very surprising to me. I didn't think those statistics was that high, but some of the data is just jumps out at you,
Yep.
and why we don't have more attention on this particular issue. And we're gonna go in more detail about suicide and the trend nationally as well as locally. But Dine Dinner Digest, sponsored by Black Men United and Big Mama's Kitchen and Catering. It's a documentary, and it's called 7 a.m. And if you're black and if you're broke, it's time to wake up. 7 a.m. is a documentary that is based on the past and current African-American struggle of creating, maintaining economic infrastructure in the United States. This documentary aims to not only highlight the issues that contribute to this phenomenon, but to also forge a new cultural imperative and will hopefully become the basis for cultural economic empowerment within the community and beyond. I don't think there's been a documentary film around economic development. Dale Gines and Lindsey Duran will be the 2 panelists that will talk about this. And it's kind of interesting because I'm more into social than economic. Social ills, the fighting with civil rights. But these individuals and others, Claude Anderson, believe that we took our eye off the prize when we were so worried about civil rights that we forgot about economic rights.
Right.
And that most of the people in our community are suffering from the lack of money. And I'm like, well, I don't know. But if you look at the data, I mean, in Omaha, I mean, you have people, poverty is $12,500. $12,500. Who can live on $12,500?
You can't.
Okay. But then you have working poor, who are making probably about $18,000 and $19,000. And if they make even $100 or $200 more, a lot of the programs that they're on to assist them, they get kicked off. So we're dealing with an economic issue within our community, and I want to hear Dale Gines and Mr. Claude Akins in his documentary. I only saw partial.
Oh, Dale Gines made that?
No, Dale Gines is one of the,
okay.
the panelists. But if Dale Gines is one of 4,000 people in the country that is an expert when it comes to economic development, he has did a lot of work, been sought out across the country. So it's going to be interesting to me about this panel. And again, it's going to be October the 17th, 5 to 7 p.m. at Big Mama's Kitchen and Catering. We got a couple other announcements. The Hunger Club, coming October the 7th, Carol Allensworth is the Chief of Division of the Health Data and Planning for the Douglas County Health Department. She was responsible for the areas of epidemiology and disease control, health data, vital statistics, and public health emergency preparedness. Carol has been employed with the Douglas County Health Department for over 27 years, and they did a survey, and the survey is called Youth Risk Behavior. And some of the data
It's scary.
in this survey, even though it was only a snapshot of health risk behaviors reported by high school students, parents, you know, everybody want to say that, you know, hey, my kid, no, not my kid, not my kid, not my kid, not my kid. But you can't argue with the data.
Right.
And I'm telling you, the data that we're seeing in North Omaha and Douglas County rivals New York, rivals Chicago, rivals Pittsburgh. Folks, you need to educate yourself. Philip Jackson, good friend of mine, he says, educate yourself or die. Folks, you need to educate yourself about what's going on, not only in your house, but in your community. And that's why it's so important tonight to talk about suicide. Educate yourself about the symptoms. You know what I'm saying? What are some of the things you should look out for as far as your child or anyone that you may know? My neighbor, Miss Paris, her son, Donald Jr., never thought for a million years that he would do this. But it was on the back of his dad dying of cancer. And no one knew that he was struggling like this. He also had a drug addiction. And both together ended up hanging himself and taking his life. So we want to, first of all, we're going to jump into this, matter of fact. We're going to forget about some of these other announcements. And I really want to bring in my guest tonight and basically let her tell you her testimony, her story, and get into suicide. Again, thank you for coming to the show. Why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Donna Smith. I do Surviving Life Tribulations before your show, and I started the show after my son committed suicide. It'll be 4 years, November 28th, that he did this. I had no clue, not any inkling. We texted each other. Everybody knew Steve was my attached to the hip. Right. You know, I was his coach. We were best friends. We worked for the same company. You know, we were together all the time. So I had no clue. So sometimes you don't see the signs. I got a call. It was 11:45 on a Monday, and said it was from somebody that he worked with. And she got a call. Immediately she called 911 in Lincoln before she even called me, because she just knew by the phone call. And the phone call was take care of his client, because we work with mentally challenged adults. And I'm going to my favorite place. That was it. Immediately she could tell by the tone that he was going to take his life. So she called Lincoln, and within 30 minutes they had helicopters up looking for him. So then she called me, and she told me what he said. So immediately, I mean, I'm at work and I'm just like freaking out, because I knew what he meant just by the way he said it. So we called his dad and said, when's the last time you'd seen him? And he said, well, he was there this morning when I left. I said, no, you need to get back to your house and look right now, see if he's in his room. And he wasn't. So, we're just sitting there going back and forth on the phone and everything. And about 1 o'clock, I went down to my knees and I got sick to my stomach. And I said, he's gone. And they're like, he's missing. I said, no, he just killed himself. I knew the minute he did it. And that was the exact time that they put on the autopsy, time of death. So I knew. We had this inner gut-wrenching feeling when something was going on with each other. My other son, we had the mental thing. Steve and I had the gut feeling, So immediately, I drove home. I called my boss and I drove home. And I don't remember even driving home, because you're in such a state of disbelief. I mean, I can't even explain what the feeling is. Got home, the two girls picked me up. We drove to Lincoln, and that was like the worst drive ever. So we drove to his dad's house, and he had left a 5-page letter out on the desk. He brought back to his dad's the clothes and things that his dad gave him. And things that I'd given him, he'd laid out on the desk. I remember I gave him a Sue rookie card. He had that laying on the desk, just different things that he was giving back to me. So, but we didn't know where he was at. So we're thinking, where's his favorite place? We're just like, You know, in the meantime, they had helicopters going over 3 counties. Didn't see his truck anywhere. Couldn't find him. So I immediately go to the police department. You know, police department, he came to his dad's, and so I went down, and by the time I went down there to sign the form for missing person, they already had him declared statewide missing person.
Right.
So I would have never made it through if it wasn't for the Lincoln Police Department. So the next, you know, and I'm up calling his, you know, I'm calling his brother and calling different people, everybody that I knew in Colorado, everywhere. Just, have you seen Steve? Have you heard from Steve? Nobody heard from him. In the meantime, he turned his phone off. And he deleted everything from his computer, wiped everything out. And so we had no idea, anything. So I'm just sitting at home by myself for hours, just in my apartment, just waiting for the phone to ring. You know, and the police kept calling me, did you hear anything? And we kept calling back and forth. So we went over to his apartment, and they wouldn't let me in. I was like, I'm on his lease. You have to let me in. So I called Brad Ashford, a friend of mine, and he had his law office call the police department, and then they said, no, you let her in there. So they let me in, and his place was a mess. And he'd left in his letter that he knew he didn't have to clean it because he knew it wasn't going to be around anymore. Found out, still didn't find him for 2 days. I mean, I'm losing my mind. His brother, you know, he flies home. He's in North Carolina. So then we're backtracking, thinking the different, you know, we had talked, his brother and I did, Sunday night. His brother was writing a script. Right. He's a filmmaker, and he was saying, yeah, I just wrote this part in the movie that Steve was supposed to show up to watch a NASCAR race, and he didn't make it. So it's just all these signs. I never believed in signs. I never believed in things meant something, you know. So it took them 2 days, but that Monday morning, they called me and said, could we put it on the news? I said, yes. So they had it on the news here all across the state that looked for this truck and Steve Smith. Right. People didn't associate it was my Steve Smith because it had it from Lincoln. Right. So I'm calling all the ball players, everybody that, you know, parties up in Lincoln and everything. And it took them till a farmer had saw it on the news that Tuesday night and said that he remembered seeing the truck Tuesday morning, but he just thought it was a hunter. Right. So he walked back over there, and the truck was still there. He didn't even go over there. He called the police, and they found his body.
Okay, now, there was no early signs whatsoever?
None.
No, man, break up with his girlfriend,
well,
no traumatic injuries,
well,
no traumatic things, events?
He planned this for 2 years.
Oh.
He made a video will, which we found in a box of tapes. He made a video will November 29th, 2009. And he committed suicide November 28th, 2011. Yeah, him and his girlfriend had broken up, but he planned this for 2 years. We got on his computer, he left us his passwords and everything, and he started writing the letter 2 years before that. In this letter, he left like little paragraphs for everybody to read, and who gets what, you know. Give this to so-and-so, give this to so-and-so. He planned this out so perfect, even the police department said that it was like a professional hit. He was obsessed with the TV show CSI. If you went back and saw all the things that he had taped on his television, all CSI shows. Okay. He checked into how to kill himself. He said he didn't want to hang himself because he didn't want the thoughts running through his head while he was hanging. He afraid he'd change his mind. So he just saw the quickest way to do it was to shoot himself. I didn't have to ID the body because they went by, he had a Superman tattoo. And they said there was one trickle of blood, and that was it. That's why they thought it could have been a professional hit. But he thought it out so well. Steve didn't think things out. He didn't plan things out. He was a fly-by-night, let's just go type kid. Right. So he planned it for 2 years, no idea. But in the letter he left, you know, you could tell by the different little paragraphs he left for everybody, which I was very fortunate, I'm not fortunate he's gone. Right. But he did say, Mom, you give me the best 31 years any child could ever have. But all the things we'd done together, traveled the country and did everything together. He goes, this had nothing to do with you. Nothing.
So he's 31.
31. And his brother was 10 years younger. You know, then everybody starts getting on the guilt. Well, if I would have just talked to him. We get up every day knowing he was not going to change his mind.
So, see, I was under the assumption that teenagers will be the larger group.
It is now.
It is now.
It is nowadays because after you know, talking to people, and we've had different people on the show and things, that cyberbullying is huge. Internet has made this an epidemic for kids.
You took one of my questions.
Right, 15 to the age 15 to 34. It's the number one. It's the number 2 cause of death in society, in the world right now, is suicide.
It's suicide. I was surprised by that. Suicide is the 11th leading cause of death overall in Nebraska, but it is, you said number 2.
Number 2 in the world.
In the world.
Right.
And then nationally, it's like 41. 149 in Nebraska is 12, almost 13% per 100,000. The cost is blew me away. 223 billion with a B. I thought, man, that can't be right. But that's a billion. A combined lifetime medical work loss cost in 2000, an average of basically 1,157,386 per suicide death. The second leading cause of death for ages 15 to 34. That blew me away. Fourth leading cause of death for ages 35 to 44.
Right.
Fifth leading cause of death for ages. These are some alarming.
And people don't want to talk about it because it's probably the biggest taboo subject there is. People don't want to talk about it. You don't, and they need to get it inside the schools, because when I speak to youth groups, and everybody knows me as the basketball lady, you know, the hoop it up lady. So when I talk to youth groups, I walk in, they're like, hey coach, you know, and so I was like, and then so I start talking basketball, but then I get into, and I remember I was talking to Apostle Ward's youth group, and there was kids in there 3 and 4 years old, and they're listening, and they said, "You're Steve? You're Steve, Miss Donna? Like my kid? You know, your kid?" Well, it had nothing to do with me. Right. It was a personal thing that he was living, you know, dealing with. Yes, his girlfriend and him broke up. And he alcohol was a big thing with him. You know, he'd had a couple DUIs. He'd gotten another one in that 2-year span from when he thought about the initial thought to when he did it. He'd got another DUI in between there. Right. And I found this out afterwards because we found the ticket that there was a warrant out for his arrest. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But he was so afraid of letting us down. It's kind of like, and I don't want to put the blame on anybody, but his dad's side family lived in Lincoln, and then I lived in Omaha, so it's like he had to live a double life. When he crossed that Lenoma, or, you know, that Platte River, mm-hmm. he had to become his dad's son. Here, you know, it was my son, you know, shorts, you know, we're into sports, blah, blah, blah. And then when he was there, you know, he had to act a certain way, be a certain way. And that's hard for children. And his dad and I'd been single mom for 30-some years, so it's not like he knew his dad and I together. But with split marriages nowadays, that's huge with kids. Right. They're getting pulled 2 directions. So there's so many factors for kids nowadays. Cyberbullying, huge. I don't mind Facebook, I don't mind the internet, all that, but it's also the biggest enemy out there.
That was one of the questions I had for you. How has social media impacted suicide rate?
It's magnified it. Mm-hmm. Because people can be so big behind text or behind a Facebook post, but there's no personal communication anymore. I mean, that's like it's extinct right now, because you might say something on Facebook about me, but are you going to say it to my face? Probably not.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. A lot of people get on Facebook and they'll run their mouth, but when it comes to being in public, it's a whole different.
Right, and it's just, calling people, and you see movies about it being made now. You see stories every day on the news, and we've had a couple young kids on, on our show, and going back to Steve, he had planted things, boxes of stuff he wanted for his service. He didn't want a funeral. The Tuesday before he killed himself, and I don't mean to put it so blunt, but that's what he did, and people need to put this bluntly. Thanksgiving was his favorite holiday, so he did it the Monday after Thanksgiving, because he always wanted to go to the Husker game, so that was a big thing. So the Tuesday before, my aunt had passed away, and he was a pallbearer at the funeral, and we're sitting there, and as we're walking out, it was the same funeral home my mom was at. The whole family had their funerals at, and he said, "Do you believe everything the pastor said?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "You're going to go to heaven. You got a good soul, Steve." And he just took a big breath, and I think that's when he decided that was the time. Like, here, I'm coming, Grandma. So I think the hardest part for me, and this is the part that chokes me up every time I talk about it, was, and the video, you could see how he made it one year, then he made it the next year, the look of him. But you don't think about these things while they're here. You think, now when he's gone, I could think about all the hindsight, all the things before. But he had parked his truck underneath these trees where he knew people looked for him, they wouldn't see it. But then he walked to an empty spot and sat down. The hardest part for me is putting the gun in his mouth and saying, "I'm sorry, Mom, I love you," and then boom. And that's the hardest part, is I know he loved me. I still miss him every single day. And people and kids and parents, you need to explain to people with you, number one, watch what you say to people, because you might say the one thing that might be the final straw. But I always say, give your kids a hug. Make sure you talk to them. I mean, Steve and I talked about everything, but he just decided he just didn't want to be here anymore. But you don't know what people are thinking. Maybe somebody had said the one thing to him that he decided that was it. Now when you go back and think, he did drink a lot in the end. He was missing work more. I didn't know that. I went to his job, and he works for Men's Challenge Adult, and they thought it was their fault. So the very next day I went to them, I said, "I just wanted to let you know I walked in there like, we're sorry we made Steve mad. I go, it had nothing to do with you, And to try to explain this to a mentally challenged person, and even to his friends, like, everybody thinks if I'd have been there, his brother's like, if I wouldn't have been in school, if I wouldn't have been away, if I would have taught, everybody, if I could have, should have, would have. None of that matters. They say before a person kills himself, takes their own life, they're in a euphoric state. That's the happiest they will ever be in their life, is just before they take their own life.
Me and another individual was actually talking about that, and I can't wrap my my head around that. 'Cause I would think just the fact that you no longer have life, or not seeing people close to you,
They're going to be at peace, though.
And see, I can't rationalize that.
Right.
Because.
But see, we're not in that state of mind.
Right.
Where we're hopeless.
Right.
Where we don't see an out. We don't see a way to change our life around. You know, we can see what we're doing tomorrow. We can see that what we're doing. But when you're in that state of mind, and I do have a problem with everybody saying, well, it's a matter of mental illness. No, I'm going to say straight up, Steve was in his right mind. For him to plan this, he planned his service. He planned everything out for 2 years. That's not mental illness. Now, spur of the moment things, yes, I can say, and a lot of, I'm going to say that, I don't know if you have statistics on this, but probably 75%, if not a little bit higher, suicides are, I broke up with my girlfriend, I don't know what to do, boom. I mean, you know, just it happens that fast.
Right.
But this, I've never heard, number one, I never knew of anybody that committed suicide before. But now, after it happened, then all of a sudden everybody's like, well, yeah, my son did, or my brother did, or whatever. Like I said, it's such a taboo subject. People don't talk about it. But if we do, and Steve was not going to change his mind. I know that. Right. No matter how much Steve, are you thinking about, you know, if you put him in, you know, 30-day, whatever, he was not going to change his mind. Right. That I know. But to get the help people need, there's always hope. But with the children out there, I mean, there's kids as young as 9 and 10 years old that are doing this. They don't understand it's final. And I just mentioned this earlier on my show. It's final. There's no coming back. And if you don't succeed with it, you're going to be a vegetable. You know, you're going to have to live with the thought that I tried it. And then there's always going to be that stigmatism that they tried it once, they're probably going to try it again. And they usually do. So I don't know if, you know, schools need to talk about it, people need to talk about it. But when you get that sense of hopelessness, I just don't know if there's any coming back. You know, veterans, I went on the suicide awareness walk. What? And it's very high with PTSD, with veterans. What? So, you know, and people that are mercy killings, you know, mercy suicides they have nowadays. People know they have terminal illnesses. They're taking their own lives. It's just, there's so many ways to do it nowadays too, with all the other drugs out there. So yeah, it's just, but just knowing that a child, a 15, 16-year-old child, you know, they could have been raped. You know, there's so many, like you said, with the alarming rate of, I was watching, I think it was one of the talk shows, 9 and 10-year-old girls are out having sex. 11, 12-year-old girls are having babies. You know, and then people put them down. You know, well, this and that. And then the parents put them down. You know, there's so many reasons, but the rate of kids, when I did a blood drive a couple years ago, I had it here in memory of Steve. And I worked at the Y on weekends, and some of the kids knew I was doing it. Well, a mother brought her daughter in and knew that this is what it was for and wanted me to talk to her daughter and to understand, tell her how final it is. Death is final. And I know people think that, but suicide, I mean, it comes in packs. Kids are doing it in packs now. You know, in the small towns, Louisville, Plattsmouth, they do it in packs. You don't hear about it. But I had a father call me, and there were 6 or 7 of them that were thinking of doing it in a pack, but only his son succeeded. Everybody else backed out. And you see TV shows about it. It's just...
Why do you think it's such a stigma attached to suicide and just having a dialogue around it?
Because it considers death. It talks about death. Death, you know, people don't want to talk about it. But just taking your own life, I mean, I still have people who don't talk to me that still haven't talked to me since my son did it. Religion has a part of it. Depends on what nationality they are, what race they are, you know, so many different things. And just like they don't want to talk about pregnancy, teen pregnancy. People don't want to talk about it, but that sure is a high percentage out there because babies are having babies. So it's just, people don't want to acknowledge that there's bad things out there.
On average, one person dies by suicide every 2 days in the state of Nebraska. Hi. That's alarming. On the average, one person dies by suicide every 2 days. The second leading cause of death for ages 15 to 34. Over 3 times as many people die by suicide in Nebraska annually than by homicide.
Right. And
Now-
and look how high our homicide rate
And
is.
that's what I was getting ready to say. It's number 3 in the country, and they're saying it's 3 times as many people is death by homicide. I mean death by suicide than actually homicide. That is bananas. The total death to suicide reflects a total of 4,340 years of potential life loss. It's just crazy.
And the main, and one of the things is back, I remember I took a class in school years ago, but if somebody committed suicide, they would not let you put the obituary in the newspaper. They just wouldn't let you do it. But now they do. Either that or you don't tell them. But you know, we put my sons in, but they would not let you because it was done by suicide.
Hi, John. How you doing? Is this by race the same amount of data, whether you black, white, blue, or brown? Is it across the board when it comes to suicide?
You know, I really couldn't tell you that because they don't want to talk about it. You know, I'm going to say it hits all race, genders. I had a gentleman on from the Native Indians, from Psalms,
Right.
and they don't talk about it in the Indian culture. It's a big taboo. They are now, but they didn't before because that was part of their beliefs, cultural beliefs. So you don't, like I said, I didn't know anybody who, but now once Steve committed suicide, then now I hear about all these people know somebody. So I don't think people will acknowledge that their person did it. It's in the people in denial.
And when suicide happens, it doesn't affect just that person. It affects the family as a whole.
Oh, it affects everybody. Everybody had anything to do with them, and that's what people need to, and that's what everybody needs to understand. It's final for you. You're not here to live it every single day. You know, you made the decision, and I'm good. You know, everybody's like, well, you know, sometimes they say, well, that was an easy way out. Well, okay, maybe it was. Maybe that was an easy way out for Steve not to deal with things. Fine, but. And he knew in the letter, he left. He's like, Mom, I know you're going to have to live with this for the rest of your life, and I'm sorry. And I'm sorry what I'm doing to you. But I want you to take what I'm doing, and you make a difference so nobody else makes that decision. So I'm doing this in because that's what he wanted me to do. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I don't know if I don't know. There's so many, you know, even though he left me answers and whatever, it's so hard for the people here. You know, I was sitting at a class the other day, the last class that Steve took, I was sitting in that exact same class, and with the 2 girls that he had called that day, they were in the same class with me. And this lady, I got called out of class, and they told her somebody passed away, and she was screaming and crying. And all of a sudden, I walked out, I lost it because all that came back to me. All of that came rushing back to me. And I walked into one of the gentlemen at InCourt's office because his brother, and I walked in and said, I just had to get away. And, you know, it can be a song. You know, NASCAR was big with us. It can be the smell of a food. There's certain, I have yet to go and do a Creighton game since he died. That was our thing to do. You know, when he passed, I wanted to go through, number one, I went to the place where he did it. I walked the walk. Nothing's grown there in that cornfield. Where his truck was parked, it's still barren. Where he did it, it's still nothing has grown there. But there's certain, I had to make myself do things. Because like I have to keep living my life. So like I'm never eating barbecue again. I'm never doing this. And you know, it brings on anxiety. It's brought on anxiety with me. the first birthday after he died, I got a tattoo. We had him cremated. We had his ashes put in the Platte River. And so I'm flying to Louisville, and all of a sudden I look up, and I'm like, wow, I'm in heaven. And I had an absolute anxiety, and I had a meltdown on the plane. I was like, I'm never flying again. I'm never going to be in heaven again. Because, like, that's the closest I'm going to be to him. So there's so many different things that the people out here that are still living deal with. You know, how do you tell a child that their father killed himself? How do you tell a mother that their son or their daughter, you're supposed to you know, your children are supposed to outlive you, as the saying goes. So how do you tell your clergy? You know, how do you tell the friends? I mean, I went on the suicide awareness walk. I can't get his friends to come with me. And I think it's because they still feel the guilt. So there's so much guilt that happens after this. Because like I said, what could I have said? There are no signs. We went to a wedding, his boss got married, and we were kidding him because it took him like forever to get ready. But that's how he wanted everybody to see him looking so perfect. That's the last memory he wanted everybody to see him.
You know, it's kind of scary, if you will, when you say there's no signs to basically alarm you.
Well, if you see somebody sitting in the room a lot, you know, there's certain things, doing some things that aren't normal. But with me, everything was normal with Steve.
Right.
So, but with a child, if you see all of a sudden your child regressing back to themselves, or or they're hanging in their room, or they're not hanging out with their friends. A friend of mine, we became friends through all this. Her son was on the K2 drug, and she had just went downstairs and saw him, came back upstairs, and she heard the gunshot. Being on K2, he all of a sudden you just get that high state.
Right.
And he killed himself. So, you know, people are alcoholics or drug addicts. It could be like you said, this person lost their father.
Right.
There's not any, I couldn't tell you 10 things that could cause it, because it's unlimited things that can cause somebody to want to commit suicide.
And I just want to put this out here. Nebraska State Prevention Coalition is a voluntary group made up of public and private agencies, survivors of suicide loss, and other interested stakeholders. Is there like a support group that you attend that on a regular basis to help you get through?
There's a lot of different, you can go online, there's a lot of different, there's a parents group that meets on, I think it's the first Tuesday of the month. Parents of children that have lost, children to suicide. I went to a couple of the meetings of places like that, but for me, honestly and personally, I don't want to hear how other people committed suicide. It's bad enough my own son committed suicide, but to hear somebody talk about it, somebody that did it 25 years ago, they're still living that. You have to live your life.
Right, yeah.
What would that person want you to do? To sit back and then sometimes that brings on suicide again.
Right.
Because this person can't live without that person.
Right.
Sometimes I'll read articles. Matter of fact, the week after Steve did it was when one of the fire chiefs hung himself from the bridge, South Omaha. I think it was South Omaha Bridge. And then I remembered, wow, Steve said he didn't want to hang himself because of the thoughts running through his head. So when you hear things, or you can tell by articles in the paper when this person's missing, like on Facebook, my gut's telling me they committed suicide, and then you don't hear nothing else. So that's what they did, because you didn't hear anything else.
So how do we get the awareness out?
Talk about it.
And how do we do that? Because one of the things in my community, we're very secretive. We keep things in-house.
Right.
And I think that may be so for the Native American community, and maybe for the Latino, it may be the speech issue. So how do we educate ourselves and our community regarding suicide?
number one, it needs to be brought in the schools, you know, and it's not like people don't know what it is, because you can Google everything. Kids know everything nowadays. They know what it is. They know, they like Steve, he knew exactly, he checked it out online how to do it. Kids get online, know exactly. One of the gentlemen from Psalms was telling me that, and he didn't want to say what it was, but Tylenol. If you take too much Tylenol, it'll kill you. And that's the way Indian culture, people from Indian culture are killing themselves by taking too much Tylenol. So parents, keep your drugs up, you know. Keep your Tylenol up. Keep your, you know, keep all your medication under lock and key. If you know your child, like I said, not talking anymore, not eating anymore, if they change the way they look, change the way they talk, you know, the people they hang around with, don't hang around with. You know what, you need to be noticing what your child is and isn't doing. That's huge. Like I brought on my own show, you know, parents don't spend enough time with their children. You know, they buy them things, they give them the computer, they give them the game systems, they think, okay, they're happy. No, they're not. They need you. But Steve and I did everything together, and that didn't make a difference. You know, you just need to talk. I went to a therapist, and they told me I didn't need therapy. You always hear, get over it. You don't get over it.
And you alluded earlier in the conversation regarding mental health and how mental health is playing a role. And I just want to digress a little bit. I've been in the military, and I understand post-traumatic stress disorder. Within our community, with so much violence, a lot of our kids are suffering from the post-traumatic stress disorder. How can you not, when you've been in an environment and you see the violence, involved in the violence around you, you have to be suffering from some type of mental health disease.
Right.
So how much of a role do mental health play in the suicide rate?
Well, I had to go on something, because my doctor was like, Donna, you're not going to be able to handle this by yourself. Mm-hmm. That's a lot to handle. So I finally admitted to myself, wow, I got to have something to help me get through the day. Mm-hmm. So I went on an antidepressant myself. I wasn't totally depressed, but I just tried to go off of it, and then I could feel that edge, just creepiness coming back to you, especially this time of year, mm-hmm. that I told my doctor, I can't do it. I have to go. No matter what I do, no matter whatever, I just feel that the weight here again. Mm-hmm. Acknowledgement is key. You have to say, I'm not right. I don't feel right. Something's not right. Yeah, when I ran the Bryant Center, I could see the kids. You know, they came there because they felt safe. Kids don't feel safe, especially in North Omaha. South Omaha is getting really bad also. These kids are afraid to come out and play anymore. They don't have that like we had it. You could go outside and play outside, you know, and then they don't know what to do inside. I mean, these kids don't know what to do. They need more things for the kids to do after school. You know, thank God for the Boys Club, Hope Center, all these places that are out there. But parents, instead of going out all the time, stay home. Watch a TV show. Talk about the TV show. Ask them what they did in school. Have family dinners again. You know, get up with them in the morning. Don't just say, go to school. Get up with them before they go to school. It's all about parents need to be around their kids. And I don't want to hear it's because single family. I was a single mom for 30-some years. Sure, Steve took his own life, but, you know, I was still with him all the time. I was with my youngest one. He never ever went to daycare, you know. So, and I work at the Y on weekends. I see kids don't want to spend time with their parents, don't want to watch their kids. You have to be a part. You are the stepping stones to their life, to the rest of their life. So, yeah, all that what's going on with violence, you get numb to it. It sounds terrible, and I don't mean, when I hear, I've had 5 ball players get murdered. I don't even, it's almost like the tears aren't there anymore because I'm so used to it. And these kids, they shouldn't have to get used to it, but they get used to it. You know, somebody gets shot in front, well, yeah, my uncle, or they're in prison or what, yeah, they're locked up, you know. And then kids go to school and they get bullied. Where's your dad? Well, how come your dad's not here? Oh yeah, he's locked up. And then the kids are having to deal with all that. You know, kids have to deal with so much more nowadays than we ever did. And it's just going to continually get worse.
You know, you say you desensitized
Yeah.
from this type of behavior because of all the violence and, you know, the lives being lost. And that's just not you. That's a lot of folks within our community. It's almost like we're so used to it.
Right.
I mean,
We
like,
shouldn't have to get used to it.
But it's like.
But we
okay,
are.
Well, you know, Jim Bob just got killed down the street. Oh, okay. It's like we're so used to us dying or the violence around our community that it's second nature.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why.
And people wonder why I take it so personally. I'm from this community.
Right.
I've been a part of this community for
Right.
20-some years.
Right.
You know, I mean, I've been part of the South Side community.
Right.
You know, I've had ball, you know, I've been involved with the Crips and the Bloods and all that. And I remember I walked into one of the mayors, and I won't mention the name, years ago, and I get this look from people. Why, just because I'm a white lady? Don't give me that look, because I care. We're people. Everybody's people.
Right.
I care.
Right.
So if you want to give me the look, whatever. Give me the look.
Right.
But I still care.
Right.
You know, and they always say, well, North Omaha this, South, you know, Millard's got the highest rate of teen pregnancy. They got the highest rate of suicide rate at one of the Millard schools. So it's everybody in general. The small towns are really bad. Small towns are really bad. I lived in a small town. You know, they go out drinking and party, you know, they all go to the
local pub.
Yeah, you know, and they all hang out in the
Jerry, go.
Right.
Okay.
And then you wonder how these kids run to trees on the way. Maybe my son, when he was 16, was supposed to ride home with somebody from a party. I'm like, no, you're not riding with that person. Well, that person hit a tree, killed himself, and then injured 5 of my son's good friends.
And I'm glad you pointed this out. When you think about the urban community, you think about a lot of the violence and all the negative disparities in the hunger, the poverty, and all these other type of things. But you never really look at those same things are happening in the rural communities.
Right.
The same thing are happening, but you really don't take notice. And I think that's why we got a lot of allies because of exactly what I just said. A lot of the things are taking place in North Omaha. They're also taking place in the rural Nebraska with the suicide, with the drug use, with the violence, and all those type of things. So,
well, if you think about where all the meth comes from, it comes from the rural communities.
well,
you know, because that's where the farmers, that's where the chemical, you know, I won't bring up cities, but, you know, there's, and then when you, and I brought this up at I'm from Lincoln High, so I brought this up at my class reunion. I said, do you know where the majority of marijuana is coming from? It's coming from Lincoln.
oh yeah,
It's coming from Lincoln.
trust and believe.
Because think about where the houses have been busted the last couple of years. Lincoln. So don't just put blinders on because you live in Lincoln, because trust me, things happen in Lincoln you just don't hear about.
Well, anybody who knows who's been in the game know that most of the people who buy their stuff from white folks. Black people don't have the money, or don't have the planes, don't have the warehouse, don't have none of those big things to be able to do that. It is the Europeans and other Latinos are really into the drug market, if you will. Most of your meth, most of your marijuana, most of your cocaine, and all those things are coming out as well. Okay, when you talked about your testimony, what is one thing you would like to leave with the audience to take away when it comes to suicide and how you can help save a life?
talk about it. We have to talk about it. We have to talk to everybody about it. We have to talk to, I don't care if your child is 4 or 5 years old, because they see stuff on TV. I mean, this stuff's finally getting brought out on television. I think if the television brought it into movies more like they do all the other stuff, you know, and the different packs, you know, if schools need to talk about it. You know, people just need to explain, tell your child, it's final. Death is final. No matter if you get shot, if you die of cancer, or if you take your own life, you're not coming back. It's final. And all the people, just think how you felt when your grandma died. That's how we're going to feel if you die.
You know, and then the internet is not really helping the situation at all, because you can hide and do a lot of things to hurt people, and we're gonna have to address that sooner or later. On how do we deal with the cyberbullying?
Well, see what your kids are doing on Facebook,
right.
You know.
And folks, believe me, they are monitoring your Facebook page. Trust and believe.
Well, they're doing it for jobs. Everybody's doing it.
Absolutely. So, again, this is a very serious issue.
Statistics are scary.
Suicide Nebraska 2015 facts and figures. You can go to Nebraska American Foundation for Suicide Prevention at afsp.org to find out more information regarding the data, some of the things that we talked about tonight. I think advocacy is a big proponent. I don't think we're getting enough dialogue and information out to the community regarding this. This really is scary because you really don't have any signs to really alert you to if a person is on the verge of committing suicide.
They'll just think they're going through something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But you'll just brush it off.
Because what you just said was like, okay, I know my kids went through the same thing. So were they
right
prone for
right.
suicide that I didn't know anything about?
Right.
So
you don't want to think about it after it's already happened.
No.
Like William knew my son for, 20 years, and he would have never thought that Steve would ever do anything like this. You know, people still don't believe it.
So, what are the top 5 indicators? Well, I guess withdrawal, but those can be very much
that could be for so many reasons.
So many different other symptoms. No race specific. The local trends compared to the national trends. We're gonna go off of Periscope. And we're gonna finish up talking about, that was over 62 views on Periscope. That's the most I done got. And Periscope is a new device that.
But just knowing that a child.
I had people from around the country viewing this broadcast. London, Africa. I think Budapest was there. This is a very serious subject, and I would like to do have more conversation about this. What do you think about maybe doing a forum or
I would love to
around this particular issue?
And you know what? The holidays are really bad.
Talk about that. Why would the holidays be?
Because it's just a lot of people are alone.
Right.
Or they don't have their loved ones anymore.
Right.
So then if you look up statistics, that's the worst time of the year for people.
Now,
and I don't acknowledge Thanksgiving anymore because that was Steve's favorite. I just,
right.
I can't see sitting in a room and, I don't know. There's so many different things. Like I said, if we did a forum, I guarantee you, like when I went on the suicide aware, there was probably 3,000 people that walked last week. And you could talk to each different person. Everybody's going to tell you something different. Emotions. They would have never thought, they didn't see. So, yeah, there's unlimited unlimited feelings, unlimited thoughts, reasons. You can't pinpoint it. They can't tell you the 5 top things. I don't care what they say. They can't tell you that.
Right.
Because it's so many different things could be involved.
Now, this walk that took place, when did it take place and who did it?
It was through the AFPSA,
Okay. Okay.
suicide prevention. It's out of Doctor's Walk. It was a 5K. Yeah, I walked a 5K.
Oh, I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah. Well, you know, you're walking slow, and it was down at ConAgra campus, really pretty down there.
Okay. Okay.
And everybody has like their shirts on representing different people.
Okay.
And you had the firemen were the fire chief. They all had their fire hats on. They know the fire. They wore their uniforms. It's all different kinds of groups, like you said, color. You know, African American. No, wasn't. People weren't out there. I'm gonna say it was probably 99.9% white.
And that's why we're gonna have to have the dialogue, because if you look at that,
Right.
just the dynamic what you just said.
I took a video and I could show it to you, and I guarantee you, the whole video, I put it out there, you won't see one African American.
So why do you think there's not more African American in these type of events?
Honestly, my opinion, as you can say, I don't know. I would say the percentage is very low of African Americans committing suicide compared to,
For real?
yeah.
Because
I can't begin to tell you why, but just all the different groups I've talked to and all the, it just, like I said, the highest rate teen suicides in Millard schools right now. I guarantee if you talk to Omaha North or talk to Benson, they're going to say they probably don't know of hardly anybody, or very few.
Now, in our community, in our religious community, it is a sin
Right.
to commit suicide. And that's what I was alluding to, because it's one thing about black folks and their religion.
Right, right. And that's the same thing with Indians.
Right.
But it's very high in the Indian population.
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't know that till the other day when I had Neil on talking about it. Yeah, it's very high.
So, why?
And I think it's because they're on their, in their own little small, you know, they're on their little group, like small towns.
Right.
And they don't get out and meet other people, and they're just so segregated in their little areas
Right.
that they don't know what else to do.
Now, you have an organization, and your organization is called?
Surviving Life's Tribulations. I go out and speak with that.
What about the suicide?
Suicide.
Is there anything else that you do besides that component?
Oh my God. I've talked to youth groups, and just people been having me. I do my basketball, to Hoop It Up. I'm bringing Hoop It Up back to Omaha.
No, that's what I'm trying to get to.
Basketball.
Now, first of all,
YMCA, I love working with kids. I try to do anything I can with kids. I work at the Y on weekends. We're going to, I help with Coach Mo Williams. I help him with his camps.
right.
And I still go support, like, I worked at Jesuit a couple years. I still go support the kids, and like, I still go to South Support South, or one of my players is a coach at North,
Right.
Coach Anderson. So I try to go still support everybody.
Okay. Now you say Hoop It Up. You used to be.
Hoop It Up used to be here, and the last couple of years it hasn't, because they tried to bring it indoors. People in Omaha don't want to play indoors.
So what's your connection with the Hoop It Up? I mean,
I run Hoop It Up. I
mean
used to
what?
run the whole Midwest.
I mean,
I'm the
what?
director of Hoop It Up, Midwest director. I do the one in Louisville, Kentucky. I've been doing that for 10 years. And I used to be the director, tournament director here in Omaha.
I mean, director, you mean you ran the whole damn thing?
Yeah, the whole damn thing. I'm Hoop It Up lady.
I mean,
William's my co-partner, aren't you, William, with Hoop It Up, see? He's my sidekick.
Now, I heard Omaha had one of the biggest.
Second biggest in the country, behind Dallas. But when the NBA used to be probably the biggest supporter. And but when they started their developmental teams, took their money out,
Right.
Hoop It Up, Gatorade dropped out, then they lost all their big sponsors.
Right.
Right now, there aren't any national sponsors. I mean, the company, they used to do Round Ball Ruckus, Triple Crown. They bought Hoop It Up.
Right.
I had my team up in the World Championships the weekend they bought it. And then that's how, I've known the owner for like 20-some years.
And it's all about the dollars. So how are you, if you're thinking about doing this, how are you going to generate resources to be able to make that happen?
To bring it back to Omaha, which they want me to, I never thought they'd ever ask me to again, but they
Right.
know, just because it didn't work out, I mean, we got smaller and smaller every year. But the only way it's going to work in Omaha is to have it outdoors. So I need to find a venue, and then I need to find it costs about $30-some thousand to bring a Hoop It Up tournament
That's it?
outdoors.
That's it?
30 grand. But to have it, I need a sponsor, at least, and then I'm going to approach a media partner like Channel 3, a big, where they put it back on TV and get because it's all about teams, even though I guarantee you people are on, online, constantly checking where's it going to be at next year. It's just, they don't get as much for playing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They used to get a bag full of stuff. I have one of the only tournaments in Louisville where they get T-shirts. A lot of tournaments don't get T-shirts anymore, but that's going to be big with me here. But whoever takes on Hoop It Up can make a lot of money, and I can tell them how to do it. Louisville, the media partner, they make it probably 100 grand. So if I can get me a sponsor, I can show you how to make big money.
It's only $30,000?
It's going to take 30 grand, but a lot of that is team oriented. But you can bring in food vendors. I had the last time I had it here was at Warner Park. Perfect place to have it. Big place out there, so I'm gonna talk to them again, because that's a good place to have it. Access to Lincoln, Elkhorn, Gretna, and then you bring in, you can sell in food vendors, you can sell in all kinds of, food, Sprint, whatever, all that. The logo, you sell a logo on a T-shirt, that's worth gold to people. So whoever wants to be a sponsor of Hoop It Up, I can show you how to make a whole lot of money.
Talk. We need to talk. I got some sponsors, and all we gotta do is tie around.
And nationally,
and mentoring around there.
Yeah, and nationally, Hoop It Up takes care of all the it'll all go on website. They have a national. If you go to hoopitup.com, they'll take care of all the mailing, they take care of all the marketing. They take care of all that. And I can, I'm good at marketing Hoop It Up. Like you said, my face lights up when I talk basketball. That's what I do.
And I wouldn't want to go with a TV station per se, because with the internet and with Periscope, we can actually do that ourselves. 95.7 would be a good fit.
We did. William's been a part of it for years. Yeah, we can do. Matter of fact, the last year we did Hoop It Up, I went from 20-some teams to 100-and-some teams within 48 hours just with Facebook. That's the best marketing tool out there, people, Facebook.
Oh yeah.
Because it's free.
I use it. I use it all the time. I use it all the time. But there's a lot of folk out there that's talking about how do we bring basketball back to North Omaha.
Me. I can do that. But Hoop It Up won't work just in North Omaha. I was going to have it at North Star. People don't want, you're not going to get your teams from Gretna and out west to come play in North Omaha. And that's just the stigmatism that like I said, we got to get over.
But hold on, I would just say like this. When Kellen was going, they came from all over. You know why? Because the best players played at Kellen. If you want to get better, you came to Kellen. We just have to put an environment where you have the best product.
Right.
And then we also got to make sure that they be in a safe environment. So.
Well, see, I bring in I hire security.
Right.
24-hour security from the time we get here to the time we leave.
Right.
So we take care of. I get all that stuff organized.
30,000.
And then we got to get some kind of a media you know, going. So we could sit down and talk.
Well, like I said, I just got my mind just ticking right about now, because my nephew's trying to do something with Fess Up in Chicago, and Michael Jordan's he actually trying to open up a new sporting club called Chicago 23,
Oh, really?
and they're looking to do it here in Omaha. So this will be.
Now, one of my best friends is a NBA player, Anthony Tolliver.
I know him.
He went to Creighton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, plays for Detroit. He's the man in Detroit now.
No, he actually up there with my cousin Joe Dubar.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, he's from Omaha, Tolliver.
He's from Springfield, Missouri, along with Steve Warren, but he played at Creighton.
Oh.
I was his mom away from home when he played at Creighton.
Oh wow. Now, we went off and talked about some other things. Suicide Prevention Month this month, right?
End of September, yeah.
In September. Do we have any events coming up?
Pretty
before?
much they did their thing. Like I said, people don't, you know, that's it. I mean, what we're talking about right now is pretty much people, you just don't hear people talk about it. They had their big walk, I know. I talk about it every week on my show. I always make a point of bringing it in. That's why I started the show. And
Okay, dude, this thing is too important. Only to
not
once,
to be talked about.
Yeah, I mean, once a year to have a walk.
Well, the month, you know, you have your Suicide Awareness Day, you have your Suicide Awareness Month, just like child cancer. You know, October is, you know, breast cancer month. I mean, you know, that's just, yeah, but it needs to be talked about all the time.
365 days a year.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do. I don't go a day without talking about it. Somebody.
So, what would you like to see happen with your organization and this particular topic, if you will?
I need to get people to not be afraid. They're afraid. But you're going to be afraid and you're going to lose somebody being afraid. So, you know, and I don't, just with the radio show, I don't talk about, you know, I just try to bring different scenario. People have gone through different things. Like, you know, I brought on somebody who got burned by acid and now they're blind, but they were for the blind. You know, I always trying to bring positive out of negative situation.
So do you have a website or do you have a?
We have a Facebook page, Surviving Life's Tribulations Facebook page.
Why do you call it Surviving?
I call it getting, well, my son doesn't like that title either, but it's because tribulation is something that you need to get over. It's like I call like life's little bump in the road.
Right.
And you need to survive, and I'm trying to teach people how to survive it.
Right.
By taking negative and turning it into the positive, how somebody's come through that tribulation. So they're surviving it. So that's kind of how I came up with it.
I like the word tribulation.
Yeah.
I use it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're surviving life's little bump in the road. That's kind of
surviving life trials.
That's what
if
it
you
is.
don't want if you don't want the tribulation of that,
Yeah.
it's just life trials. I mean, most people can't deal with life trials.
You have to.
Yeah.
That's why people aren't ready for it when it happens. I wasn't ready.
Well,
and I think in December I'm going to go to Mama's place, do
Right.
your.
Yeah.
So we can bring this topic up there.
I'm glad she mentioned that. In December, she will be at the Hungry Club, and will be the first Wednesday in December from 12 to 1 at Big Mama's. We want to be able to help get the word out, have the dialogue regarding this particular issue. It touched me personally with Miss Lucille Paris, my neighbor. I call her grandma. Been a security up at Northwest for about 30 years, and she's like my mom away from home. And her husband, Mr. Paris, died of cancer, and he was like my mentor. And then maybe 6 months later, Donald Jr. Hung himself. And she had a tough time dealing with the tribulations.
Right, right.
I don't think she has gotten back.
You won't get back. It changed my life forever.
And
It changed his brother forever.
Yes, and she's still asking herself why. 'Cause she doesn't.
See, that's something she needs to not do.
Right.
Because my point, I can't bring him back.
Right.
He's gone. I can't bring him back. So I need to get up every day making the best decisions I can to make a difference to somebody else. Like I go out of my way to open a door for somebody or to make somebody's life better every day. Even on my Facebook page, do not put anything negative, I will unfriend you.
Pay it forward.
Totally believe in that.
Right. Grief is something that we as a people, as a community, really don't know how to deal with.
Right.
Walk us through how you dealt with your grief and how you're dealing with it now.
Talking about it. I'm just because somebody is gone doesn't mean you stop. They're not gone. They're always here. So talk about them. Talk about, I always talk about memories. I remember, and somebody said, oh, you need to write a book. I can't without Steve being here. He remembered everything. He could tell you what happened in what game 20 years ago. I can't remember stuff like that. So you need to talk about the person because they're still here in your heart. I still, whenever I see his friends, I still talk about him. He's got his Facebook page still up, and I still post stuff on his Facebook page. By doing something positive every day is the way I deal with it. Doing my show helps a lot because we always try to bring positive things into the show. Just trying to be kind to people who might not have kindness in their life. Try to be kind to the elderly because they're alone. So many people are alone, even though they act. You could be in a room with 200 people, and somebody can still be alone. Now, when I go home, I like my quiet time, and I have the things. He was big into Superman, so I have all of his little Superman stuff up, and I'll play his video well, just so I can hear his voice. But I don't go to the extent where I'm obsessed. And you don't ever get over your grief. You don't. Well, get over it. Don't ever say that to anybody, because you're going to make it worse for them. Just go up and say, like when I first went back to work, people would walk to the other side of the room because people don't know what to say. People don't know what to say when somebody's killed themselves. They don't know what to say to you. Well, don't not say anything. Just say, how's your day going? Hi. Do not go by and not say anything.
Right.
I can't stand people that do that.
Right. Again, folks, Dine Dinner Digest, sponsored by Black Men United and Big Mama's Kitchen and Catering, 3223 North 45th Street, 7 a.m. A documentary, If You're Black and Broke, It's Time to Wake Up.
How about if you're white and broke? No, I'm just kidding.
It's 7 a.m. It's a documentary that is based on the past on the current African-American struggle in creating, maintaining economic infrastructure in the U.S. This documentary aims to not only highlight the issues that contribute to this phenomenon, but to also forge a new cultural imperative that will hopefully become the basis for cultural economic empowerment within the community and beyond. Mr. Dale Gines and Mr. Winsley Duran will make up the panel and a discussion around this phenomenal film, 7 a.m. Folks, there is a national move around mass incarceration. We're working with Michelle Alexander, and it's almost pretty much a done deal. But next year, we're actually doing what we feel is going to be the first conference around mass incarceration, best practices, if you will. What is actually out there working around the country to reduce recidivism? Texas has reduced recidivism by 20%, 20, without raising taxes, without taking any type of extra monies whatsoever. So they are able to do that in less than 5 years. Why are we doing some of the things that Texas is actually doing? Alternative sentencing is a huge a lot of folks who are in the criminal justice system are not in it for violent crime, but misdemeanor crimes. Well, let's look at alternative sentencing to be able to stop those individuals from going in and getting a felony, which is a deterrent to be able to get those individuals hired. So we need criminal justice reform. We need alternative sentencing. There's a new bill coming out called Bipartisan Safe, S-A-F-E, Justice Act, seeks a comprehensive reform to the federal justice system. So we're working with Friends and Families of Inmates, Appleseed, ACLU, and Bread for the World, and a lot of these organizations. And by the way, a lot of those organizations are white because they're seeing a lot of white folks going to prisons as well. You know the fastest growing population of people going to prison? Not black men, but women. Women, which means there's more of our children going into the foster care system, which is by itself a whole nother story. So they have this law that's coming out to fix the criminal justice system as a whole. The new federal regulation being rolled out seeks to change this. Representative Jim Schumacher and Bobby Scott, a Democrat from Virginia, is actually spearheading this legislation. So folks, go out and Google the Safe Justice Act. Educate yourself about this particular bill. Write your congressman, your senator regarding the Safe Justice Act and how you can get involved. And the reason why, I know I keep throwing up this race thing, and I wish race would never have been an issue. But I will be fooling myself and even be in denial because the data speaks for itself when it comes to the disparity regarding race. But when you put 1 out of every 3 African American between the ages of 16 and 35 are behind bars or on paper, that is an epidemic. And so you have to look at what causing that. Well, if we want to make up 12% of the population, what basis can you use when you make up 60% of the prison population? If it's not race, if it's not poverty, if it's not hunger. So we need to educate ourselves about mass incarceration and how race is being played and utilized as a way to be able to put more people of color behind bars. I didn't say it. Michelle Alexander said it, and other folks. So don't argue with me in the data. The data speaks for itself. All I'm doing is putting it out there. Mass incarceration is an issue. And I'll say this. Black folks, we can't get upset when we don't take advantage of what can make things fair. When you're talking peer-to-peer, that means you have to have more people who look like you on the juries. Okay, guess how you get on the jury? You have to vote, and you gotta have an ID, and you gotta have an ID or driver's license. So if you don't vote and you don't have a driver's license, you're not going to get folks on a jury who look like you. So therefore, what I'm saying is, until we recognize that we have to go to the polls and we have to vote and vote in large numbers, we get what we get. Again, folks, this has been kind of crazy night for me personally because of all the stress that's going on, not just in my personal life, but also in the community. They see so much pain and suffering. We see so many people, man, calling me on a daily basis saying, could you go to, you know how many people wanted me to go to court with them just this week? Just 5 people wanted me to go and testify and support. And I just can't be everywhere. And it's such a disheartening thing because most of the time our folks are going into the criminal justice system with no support whatsoever. And the only people that come in and show up maybe be their girlfriend or friend, but usually there's not a big large support. And when they go in, they hardly have any visitors whatsoever. So to do hard time like that, and you wonder why folks will keep going back in. We got to do better.
I'm getting ready to go visit a friend of mine. I just asked to get the paperwork. I'm going to go visit him. Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things that we really want folks to start doing. Right now, man, Tecumseh is on lockdown, so you really can't go into Tecumseh State Pen. But Lincoln Correctional Center and OCC and Lane Gessler. So I'm gonna give a big shout out to Lane Gessler, who have been working with the Department of Correction for a minute, and they're really looking at getting more people behind the walls and playing a bigger role.
Well, William and I, we were trying to do a Scared Straight,
Right.
but they wouldn't let us in. But they used to here at Omaha, because I used to take up my ball players on Saturdays. I would take these at-risk kids into Douglas County Correction, and they would have them be there for a day.
Right. Right.
They don't do that anymore.
Well, I think it would be a good idea to talk to Lane Gessler or the new superintendent.
That would
And
be
I'm
great.
actually getting ready to set up a meeting with both of those guys because they really want to be more community oriented and have somewhat of a partnership. Because a lot of folks is getting ready to come out
Right,
and coming back into community.
right,
So we better have a bridge, if you will,
right.
to be able to bring those folks back into
Yeah, I agree.
to market. And that's why the commodity center that came about was I actually went into Tecumseh for about maybe 4 or 5 years, and it was birthed out of Tecumseh. They were saying, hey man, some of these guys were doing double life, 50 to 75 years, and it was rolling off their tongue as though they was talking about let's go into a movie. But they said, look, Mr. Hamilton, we may never get out. But there's a lot of these young guys who coming in here who are doing 2 to 3 years, who we can help. But in order for that to happen, we got to make sure they don't come back. A lot of these folks, man, don't have the expertise to be able to go get an insurance job or a banking job. They got a record, so they can't get those type of jobs.
But here's the deal now, though. I mean, they have computer. They can go on the computer there.
Right.
They have cell phones there.
Right.
You know.
Well,
And I
some-
just found this out. And I was like, what?
Well, some of them, when they get ready to get released, they get those type of privileges. But you don't have those privileges while you're actually in the joint.
Right.
It's when you get at either 3/4 hours or a community release center.
Right.
Then you get those privileges.
But I think sometimes movies, and I think sometimes they glorify prison a little bit.
A little bit.
Well, to make it seem like they need to.
I get my organization called Black Men United, and I get so mad at my brothers who do exactly what you just said. It's almost like it's a bridge to manhood. If you ain't been to the joint,
Right.
then you're not a man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we got to stop that.
Yep.
Because the minute you get up here and say, oh, my hood, you know what I'm saying, I've been locked down for my brothers, you got people up here looking at that and saying, oh, man, he down because he been to the joint. My daddy was in the joint, my grandpa was in the joint, my uncle was in the joint, my brother was in the joint.
Yep.
So, so we have to stop glorifying being in the joint
Right.
as something that has a badge of honor, but until we have an alternative, whether we like it or not, that's how our black boys are running to be men, so-called men.
That's why you have 11 and 12-year-olds are out there killing.
So we're gonna cut it short. My guest didn't call in like it's supposed to, but it's 8:30, and we just want to thank Donna so much, and really talking about something I think is that a pandemic, and not only Omaha,
Everywhere.
but across this country. I mean, with the data.
Data doesn't even tell you the whole story.
The they was using here, we should be running out and asking our elected officials, why aren't we demanding more dialogue regarding suicide and suicide prevention? Please go to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, AFSP.org, to learn more about what you can do and how you become an advocate for individuals you can contact Ms. Nicole Gibson, who's the senior manager of the state advocacy for the state of Nebraska. Again, folks, this data is, and statistics is just through the roof again. The second leading cause of death for ages 15 to 34. The fourth leading cause of death for ages 35 to 44. The fifth leading cause of death for ages 45 to 54. We have a pandemic.
And as a
we need to
mother,
address-
you don't, sometimes I feel like I almost wish he would have got killed in a car crash instead of taking his own life. But he's not here, so, I can't, ifs, and, would have, could have, should have. You don't want to have to go through life thinking that every day. What could I have done? You don't want to have his friends. You don't want, there's just, I can't tell you the feeling of losing your child. I just can't tell you.
We don't want the what ifs.
Yeah.
So make sure you educate yourself about suicide. If you see early signs of withdrawal, if you see moodiness, you see alcohol use, things of that nature, don't just shut it off.
If you think it's a little thing, it could be a big thing.
Make the phone call.
Boys Town has a hotline. Just go, you can Google it. There's so many different, and it doesn't have to be that person. You can be, there's parent groups out there. There's so many different ways you can get the information you need. So.
But if you know if someone is going through a traumatic incident in their lives and they were drawn away from life, pick up the phone. I mean, just at least make an effort to inquire.
And sometimes it's hard for kids to talk to their parents. So maybe you need to be, maybe your son or daughter could be the ear. Because you don't want to tell a teacher because you know they're going to tell your parents. You don't want to tell a counselor because you know they're going to tell your parents. You don't want to talk to your parents because they're afraid you're going to upset your parents. So there's other ways we got to get the word out there. And we got to be able to be somebody they can call and talk to. I have parents call in and their kids talk to me. I don't have a problem with that. Find me online. Call me. I will talk to your child. If I can save, and I know we've saved lives by talking about it on our show. We've had people tell us this. So don't be afraid to put that hand out there and be somebody that they can grab onto.
It takes a village. Don't be quiet. If you have a gut feeling that something is not right,
It's not right.
it's not right. So take the time, make the inquiry, if necessary, intervene, make the phone call, and you can literally save a life. Don't be second guessing yourself. You'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yep.
So you can also visit her Facebook page, and that Facebook page is
Surviving Life's Tribulations.
And we just want to give a big plug out to Big Mama's Kitchen and Catering and Sandwich Shop for being one of our sponsors, located off of 24th and Lake. Also, second one, 3223 North 45th Street on the Turning Point campus. Again, this coming first Wednesday of the month will be the Douglas County Health Department. We're talking about some of the data, the alarming data, when it comes to behavior. And this is only a snapshot, but the snapshot, I just shook my head. So we'll come out from 12 to 1 at Big Mama's. Great food, great fun, great food, great friends. And again, we want to thank 106.9 for giving us the opportunity to come back on the air to hopefully educate, empower, and get you involved. This is not a sideline sport anymore. You have to get involved. No longer about sitting behind closed doors and complaining. If all you're going to do is complain, you can miss me with that. But if you want to get involved, there's plenty of places to get involved. Everybody got a cross to bear. Everybody got something they can do. God has put something inside of you to affect change. Take the opportunity and be able to experience what that is, and then go out there and get it done. So, of course, this is Real Talk. Join in.
Thank you.
No problemo. Join us next week at the same time, same station. As always, always be true to self. And we leave you with peace. Stop record. Hit record on that one.
Is it stop broadcast?
Hit record first.
Oh,
Yeah, I think, and then hit raw, stop record. And it should pop up.
well, I didn't stop broadcast.
Okay, then hit record, stop record.